everyone. Last week I followed our 3-week study on the accuracy of the Bible with the next step. If you believe it, obey it. Because the word obey appears in the Bible 69 times. When God uses the word obey, just what does he expect of us? One of the most important requirements in obeying God is witnessing to both non-Christians and lifelong Christians in truth. If someone is a Christian, why would I witness to them? I can't judge. The simple answer is because the Bible told us to. In 1 Corinthians chapter 5, verses 12 and 13, we are told, "What business is it of mine to judge those outside the church? Are you not to judge those inside? God will judge those outside." Months ago, I explained the difference between the do not judge words of Jesus and those words in Corinthians. Jesus' words apply to the actions of an unbeliever, but Corinthians speaks directly to our requirement judgment of those who call themselves Christians. Think about this. No one is perfect. Romans chapter 3, verse 23 says, "All have sinned and fall short of the glory of God." Nevertheless, we are told to judge Christians. Why? Because God says that some sins will send even those who call themselves Christian directly to hell if they do not repent and change their ways. Some members of my own extended family are on that path and have found churches that support their travels that lead to the forever dwelling place of Satan. Why then is no one willing to take a stand for Christ and for other Christians by witnessing? Here are some reasons. The first is most people are gray Christians, and that color has nothing to do with their age. I once was one of them. The grayers often go to church every Sunday and would tell you they are definitely Christian, but they wouldn't speak to openly sinning Christians for any reason, even though the Bible requires all of us to do that. They don't want to rock the boat or lose their "I like you" status. Being liked for most grayers is far more important than standing up for God. But does God want grayers who are liked, or does he want disciples? Second, gray Christians make excuses for the behavior of other Christians. For example, senior citizens, Christians or not, are living together instead of marrying, often because their spouses died, and marrying someone new will reduce the money they get every month. In God's language, this is called fornication, and that word includes any kind of sexual immorality. Jesus said, fornication makes man unclean. In 1 Corinthians chapter 6, verse 9, man is clearly told that fornicators will not enter the kingdom of heaven. Will not. Putting money, or for that matter, anything else ahead of God's way is not acceptable to him. Yet we Christians watch family and friends, especially senior citizens, live with someone outside of marriage, knowing they won't go to heaven unless they repent and get married. But grayers, including many pastors and priests, fully support their behavior in silence. How about homosexuality among church-going Christians? They too are listed in the Bible as fornicators who won't see heaven without a change in their lives. Some of these are also my extended family. I spoke up because I want them to be saved. Have you done the same? Or would you rather be a grayer who needs to be liked, avoids a conflict, and lets them you love walk to hell? What about pastors who encourage and even support this anti-God behavior? And even worse, marry them in the church. How many pastors have you spoken with about that behavior? Or are you simply a grayer? Today in church, my husband heard a pastor speak who is definitely not a grayer. Without a moment's hesitation, he said, quote, "A Christian cannot walk into a voting booth and vote for a baby killer and believe they really are a Christian," end quote. Wow. According to the Bible, God would have clapped at those words. Mankind cannot talk as a Christian without first walking as a Christian. And that walk requires us to run away from gray and support God and His Word at all times, even when it's uncomfortable to do so. We have to move courageously and speak boldly to those we know and love to keep them from eternal suffering. Some in my extended family believe everyone's going to heaven, unless the person is Hitler, because God is love. He sure is. But His love has a limit. We saw that in the flood. God has expectations for us, and one of those is witnessing to both the unbeliever and the Christian who is headed down a wrong path. Remember the words of Jesus to the church of Laodicea in Revelation chapter 3, verse 15. "I know your deeds, that you are neither cold nor hot. Because you are lukewarm, I am about to spit you out of my mouth." This, folks, describes grayers to a T. Is that you? If so, change your color. Don't blend with the world. Ephesians chapter 5 says, "Remember the grace you have received. Reveal the darkness you see and reflect the light." Bring cold and lukewarm Christians to Christ. And if that's you, change and do it quickly. Thanks for listening. Join me again next week to continue to learn what the word obey means to God. Until then, keep reading God's entire word and have a very blessed week.